Music was always a big part of my life. When I was 3 years old already, my mom noticed I could sing, and I just loved expressing everything with music. There's such a misconception in Austria about Islam. Some work people, they gifted me the Quran and said, just read it. Family was very confused. They didn't understand, and they were like, okay, you're just dropping this on us. My message to all the people is just educate yourself. I'm not dumb or anything just because I put on a piece of clothing. My name is Jaqlyn. I'm 23 years old and I come from Austria, France.
Can you tell us a bit about your journey to Islam?
Yes, I'd love to. I was first introduced to Islam. I stumbled upon something online that was talking about the expansion of the universe and how the Quran already knew, and how I was already in the Quran so many years before that, before we even found out. And I put it on the side because I was focused on other stuff. And later on, I had many discussions because there's such a misconception in Austria about Islam. So later on, when I had a discussion with some work people, they gifted me the Quran and said, just read it. And when I read it, I realized that not just the scientific part was so interesting, but also I had it was so simple. I had such a feeling that it was the right thing, and it was such a homey feeling. And I like to think that I've always been protected somehow because certain values and certain things I always did were, like those rules we have in the Quran were just something I already followed, and I didn't have that from my family. And I'd like to think that I was just, protected until I found my path into the religion.
MashaAllah, that's amazing. But to take that step is a huge decision. What made you take that final step?
I was obviously a bit nervous, but I knew it was the right religion. I just didn't know the timing, when is the right time to do such a thing. I didn't know everything about it. Of course, I was new to it, but I knew I wanted to learn everything else as a Muslim. I told some friends that knew someone, and then we just had our imam and he made it happen. And from that day forward, I knew, it was the right thing to do. So it wasn't really a big step. It was just like a step that needed timing, the perfect timing. But it was the right thing to do, and I didn't want to wait until I was more sure because I already knew it was the right thing.
How old were you?
I think I just turned 20. I was in college. It was just a crazy timing, and everyone was confused because they suddenly, when I reverted to Islam, it took me like a month to put on a hijab. And I told my parents after telling them that I reverted, no, I don't want to put on my hijab. I don't want to do that. But I just felt it's just a different kind of empowerment, and it felt so right. I felt even closer to my religion wearing my hijab. And so every time I try to put it on in Graz, and I tried to find ways to wear it somehow. So I went to the mosque very often. And I was still afraid to do it in Graz. And then I flew to Barcelona with some friends. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to put it on for this week and see. Because if I shouldn't like it, or it would turn out that I don't want to wear it, people won't judge me if I take it off. But I realized it was, it was such a nice week. The entire week, it felt so right on me. And I just decided to keep it on and flew back, told my boss. And, I started that day forward. I was a hijabi coming back to Austria.
And what was the reaction of your family, your friends, your work?
My family was very confused. They didn't understand. And they were like, okay, you're just dropping this on us. It's not a good time to drop this on us. And even friends, they didn't understand because they knew me with my hair, and it was even part of my personality. Because for some reason, they're never going to understand what it is because they just see me covering and thinking I'm limited in certain ways. I didn't have many Muslim friends, so I didn't have that positive, someone saying, oh, mashallah, Allahumma barik. So I didn't have that. And I had some at work that were very impressed and said, you're going to see, you're going to get a community, you're going to find people that are going to appreciate this so much and going to say, you did such a great job. And I did, alhamdulillah. I found later, at the mosque, I found my way into it. But I would say most of it was just bad, they took it really badly. Friends, family, everyone. And at first, I had to. And it was such a hard thing because they tried to get into and see how much I know. And I told them, this is what I know, and the rest I'm still learning. And they were so confused because they said, how can you just have read into a religion for a few months and already revert or convert to this religion without even knowing this and that, without knowing the facts when, stories happened. And I told them, this is something I need them to understand, that this is just the main thing. I knew it was right, and the rest I needed to learn. And it was kind of, drove a wedge between us for some time, but we made it work, alhamdulillah.
And it was through reading the Quran that you accepted Islam, not through Muslim friends.
I had Muslim friends, but I always got along with them at school, like girls. But I didn't understand, and I didn't think in that way. Like I never would have thought, okay, I'm gonna be a Muslim one day, inshallah. And I never thought this way. But I always felt, very protective, even because many were talking bad about the hijab in school. So I always felt this. I was always protecting them, and I said, just let them be. It's their religion, which I think everyone should always do. But no, for some reason, I didn't.
And moving on to the other part of your personality, maybe, or your character of who you are, which is music.
Yes.
So how did you get into music, and what does music mean to you?
And the thing is, music was always a big part of my life. When I was 3 years old already, my mom noticed I could sing, and I just loved expressing everything with music, and very theatrical, very, all of that around. And it was always part of my life. And when I took on, when I reverted to Islam and, took on my religion, I wasn't quite sure, because there were so many different opinions online. Some opinions, just strong opinions, and people, listen to them. And I was so afraid that people are gonna be telling me, okay, you're such a bad Muslim, whatever. So I stopped for a year. Like I said, I'm stopping this entire thing for a year. It was the time I wanted to go to The Voice, and I said, no, I need to put a break on that. And I had to figure out, is it right, is it not right? Because I realized it needs, I shouldn't listen to other people. I should just, try to find what it says, and try to, talk to scholars, maybe find a way in a mosque, and just see what the right answer is. And after a year, but less than a year, I realized, okay, I can do music. Like, what is my intention? It's really stated in the Quran, what are your intentions? And it's, like I said, so simple. So everything you're not supposed to do is actually, it says it right there. You're not supposed to do that. So when people ask me, you have so many rules, there's so many things you can't do. And I just tell them, no, you just can't do what it says you cannot do. Everything else you can do. And it's so important that you have your intentions with it. And, I started moving forward with this mindset, and read into it, got very into it, and I knew it was the right thing. And I realized after putting on my hijab, I need to show, be an influence in some way. And I pursued my dream, and I went to The Voice. And I told them it's very important for me that I have good songs, good messaging. I want to be a good influence, and I want to show people that Korean wear more than just a scarf and just a piece of clothing. And that I had my message, and then, you guys reached out 2 days before I signed something completely different, and alhamdulillah, I worked out.
What was the Voice experience like for you?
The Voice experience was fun. It was a fun thing, but I thought it wasn't really, how do I put it? When I was there, I had the fun of my life. I met amazing people. I even met 2 Muslim girls. They do music too. One of them even made it to the half finals, and they're really close friends of mine now. But it was just, people were so confused, and they only see me for my hijab. And even, some people wanted to make the story about the hijab. And then we had a director there who said, but it's her voice. And I said, I'm here for my voice. It's not my hijab that I'm here for. I'm here as a person. If I have blue hair, I'm not going to be there for my blue hair. I'm going to be there for my voice. You could always tell people were just looking at the hijab first and not the voice. And it was so nice, finding you guys, because now you guys don't see me for my hijab, but you see me for my voice. This is something that's I've been really blessed with, alhamdulillah.
Actually, The Voice is kind of the perfect competition for you, because you got all 4 judges to turn for you, and it was purely for your voice. They couldn't see you.
Exactly.
They could only judge you for your voice. What was that feeling like?
It was so surreal. That feeling was surreal, because when I went to my hotel room back, it took me 2-3 hours to realize. But I honestly felt like, okay, they're turning around for my voice. I could actually tell, because they were so strict about us being in different houses. No one can meet. This would be, disqualifying someone if you meet them. So it really felt like it was, they turned around for my voice. And even then, when they turned around, many of them were smiling, because they were like, oh my God, look, it's a girl with a hijab, and she had the courage to stand on stage. And I got so many messages, after it, just my Instagram exploded at the release day. And so many hijabis telling me, mashallah, sister, you did so great. You're such an empowerment. We want to follow your journey. And ever since, it has been growing, and I feel like, it's sort of become my duty as well to be an influence, a good influence, and I get to be reminded of that every day through that. So
there's been a lot of media interest in you.
Yeah.
After your appearance on The Voice from Germany, from the German media and from the Austrian media,
Yeah.
what was that like?
It felt surreal. Like I opened on Instagram, I have my email account linked, obviously for requests and everything. I had to open an entirely new email account because I had so many messages, and it was overwhelming, and I couldn't do all of the interviews. I couldn't do all of the newspapers. Some I just now find, in my DMs, and like I didn't see that. I'm so sorry. But it was a fun feeling. It felt like, it was the right thing to do. And I always try to find and take the opportunity to talk about Islam, because even if it's a bad thing, like they're trying to prove a point, how bad it is, whatever, I try to take that opportunity and, talk about it. And that's why I made sure I'm very educated on it, and I kept reading for an entire year, and I really made it my personality. And I made sure I know what to say, because people are, and now especially me being, a highlight in like the social media face of Austria as a hijabi, I'm gonna have to know what to say. So I made sure I don't, mess up. But I always keep telling them, I'm also just learning. I'm new to this. Even 2 years is still new. Even though I read into it and I put effort into it, it's still something I can still make mistakes. So I made sure I surrounded myself with people that have the same thoughts and could have the same mindset, and it's going a good way.
What's the reaction been like in Austria from the Austrian people?
It's been different. There have been people that said, wow, it's so nice to see something. We don't even see your hijab. I've had Austrian people even commenting on those haters, saying, what do you think you are? You haven't even been there. You don't know. But I don't take it that serious, because, they just don't know. So I can't be mad at them, and I don't want to be mad at them. But I like to think that, and I know that most of them are just, good reactions, and they just need to understand. So this is the journey I'm taking to get people to be more tolerant and be more, open-minded, open their hearts, inshallah.
What are you hoping to achieve through your music?
I am hoping to especially empower girls. It's so important to be, it's so hard to be in a country where you're afraid to put on a hijab when you really want to put it on. But I don't blame people for not wearing their hijab in my country, because it can be challenging. But I want to empower them and be like, that you're not alone. There are people out there that also want to do it. And if you take this step, it's worth it, because all of this, it outweighs, the good stuff outweighs those minor incidents. I think about them, but, I think about the good stuff on the daily. Like I wake up, I have amazing messages, I have people around me. And it's so, yeah, it's honestly, I just want to be a good example and, make sure to do the right thing and encourage people to look into that religion at least. Educate yourself. I'm not saying, you have to revert immediately. Just make sure you don't, you understand, because religion is not a bad thing. It's never a form of violence, and it's never political. It's never, how do you say, cultural. So it is religion. It is pure. It is us people that act in a way they shouldn't, but it's not the religion at fault here. So this is a message I also want to spread, and also, to empower women.
And why do you create the music that you do and the songs that you do? Is it to represent the voice of some people who are not represented? Is it to express your emotions, to heal, to be heard? But what is it that you want to do?
I'd say it's a good mix of representation, but also a sort of expression, because I've always been, I'm a good talker, usually, my native language. But I've always been, my voice has always reached people for some reason. They felt something. It was emotional for them, and they always felt like it was something they felt homey with. So I think it is very important for me to use my voice, my singing voice, in a good way. In a way that's gonna be a good influence. So I think it's a mixture of both of them.
How has your faith changed the way you see success?
I feel success is when it's not about numbers now for me. It used to be like that, but it's just about, getting someone, even just a person. For example, like someone texted me, she saw my audition on The Voice. She was always so afraid, and she thought about wearing the hijab for a long time. And then we got into contact, and we talked a bit. And then she said, what, I'm just going to do it. I said, just do it, because if you say you're going to do it in 3 years, and you're always going to push it on, I've known it for myself. And it's a good thing to be impulsive in that way, although it sounds kind of silly, but it's just try it. Mostly when people put it on there, they don't want to take it off after they've experienced what it is like and what it feels like. And then a few weeks later, I seen her. She texted me again and said, "I'm a hijabi, alhamdulillah." And I know this is something so minor to some people and something so unnecessary, but it's that was a successful for me. That was success in a way, you know. And also like people saying, you know, I want to read into it now because they read all those hate comments, and they said, but let me read into it, and they got interested in it. This is success for me too. So obviously, it's still numbers, of course, and you know, being successful, inshallah, one day. But also this, you know, those little steps are a very great success to me.
As a relatively new Muslim, who is your support network? Who are among friends or a mosque or the people around you who support you?
I do have support. Of course, I go to mosque. I have a youth group. I'm part of a youth group. We do a lot of projects, and even for co-reverts and some people that want to join. So I'd say this is a very good support area and the friends I have. But honestly, I think myself, I am my biggest support on this, because it sounds so silly, but I go back on what I read and what I know is right. So I'm gonna be my biggest support on this journey because, you know, I know it. I read into it, and I know what is right. We all of us have this. We know what is right. It feels wrong to do something. Like, we have it in us.
We see the rise of the right wing, maybe extreme right wing across Europe and the world. And you being Austrian and converting to Islam and going on The Voice has made you maybe a target online for these extreme right or far right people. So what's your message to them?
My message to all the people, you know, saying I did the wrong thing and how can you do that, is just educate yourself, you know, be a bit more open. Because I am a nice person. I'm never gonna hurt you. Like, if you talk to me, I'm gonna be just as nice to you. I'm not dumb or anything just because I put on a piece of clothing. So my message in general would just be more open, be nice, understand that some people just have certain values you might even agree on if you just read into it.
On the other side, there are Muslims also who would feel that you going on The Voice, singing, you releasing songs as a Muslim woman, also they feel that something that they feel is not right. So what's your message to them?
Yeah, well, obviously, because I've experienced that. My message to them is also like, I keep telling people, you know, this is my intentions. You know, my niyyah is like, what do I want to do? I'm not up there just to sing about party songs. I'm not up there to shake around on stage. I want to do something good with my voice. I want to get people, even like if it's bad publicity in a way and people get hate on it, people still get in contact with it. So they say, okay, what is she? Oh, she's a Muslim. Okay, Quran, what is that? And then maybe they get interested in it. Even if they're just trying to prove a point, the total opposite, they might just find their way. So I feel like they, you know, just, yeah, be more open about it.
What do you hope to achieve in the future?
In the future, generally speaking, obviously, I want to be at a point where I achieve my peace in general. So I want to have, you know, inshallah, a nice life with people that share the same values around me. But music-wise also, which I add into that, I want to, you know, make some good music and get people to listen to it, understand, have people worldwide just look into it and, you know, find themselves somehow relating to it with good messages, with good, good intentions.
And what kind of impact do you hope to have, or do you hope for your music to have on young women, especially young Muslim women, those navigating and dealing with their identity and their faith?
The best impact I could have is, I want to use an example maybe for this. Like, let's say they said, hey, let's go out party, have some fun. And I don't know, imagine I would be just on her playlist and she knows my story. She knows what I, you know, what I do. That she goes like, nah, I don't want to, because I know there are better ways for me. Or even if they say they want to do music and they're afraid, they don't want to put on their hijab because they want to do music, but I can do it because she did it too. You know, I want it to be like, there's a voice for us too. It's so important to have a strong voice in social media for your values, because we have a lot of strong voices on social media. We have a lot of strong voices in this world, So it's so important to have someone that you can identify with and maybe just look up to. You know, I want to be an example, and maybe just, you know, some things I will never know what happens, but I just want people to be like, okay, I'm not gonna do it because, you know, she didn't need to do that either. I don't need to take off in the half of my clothing and be on stage. I don't need to. I can do my stuff and I can be just as successful and just as powerful with a hijab on.
So obviously during this last few days of your visit to get to know Awakening team and start working on your first few songs, how's that been like?
This has been the craziest experience. Like, not just the music, it felt so, I felt like I was really at home. It was such a nice thing because I've done music before and I've traveled before. And it was just, you know, on a human level, it was just so special to me, all of this, all of you guys, alhamdulillah. And on the music side, it was so much fun. I had so much peace, you know. Like, obviously I was nervous and scared, but it's just that it feels so right doing this, and you have people around me, and you know, and a firm that is actually supportive on this makes it so much easier. Like, I went to a hotel room every night. I was like, alhamdulillah, why do I get this? You know, there's so many people out there that, you know, would deserve that too. And for some reason, you know, I get to do it. It's so surreal, and so I'm so blessed, honestly.
What's you remember most from the studio?
From the studio, like, just honestly, the vibes, everything around it, like from the studio, all of this, like all of the feelings I had, all of this, you know, that is right, and such a fun time. But at the same time, it felt like this was the right thing. You know, we're doing something great here. We're doing something, you know, be loud, have a voice, and it feels like this is such a big step towards it. And it's so surreal to think that we're gonna publish something soon, and our people are gonna be able to be part of this journey, and, you know, we're gonna be able to influence future generations, and even future generations where we're not gonna be around anymore, and have voices, you know, like us. It could be big, proud, strong.
And which song did you enjoy recording the most?
Recording the most? Sorry, they have to say it now. Okay. I want to say there was a song I didn't like in the beginning. You know, we all know which it is. I keep saying this is me, but it's called different, right? How do we call it? This is who I am. This is who I am, exactly. And obviously I hated it. I told Bara 2 times, and he still said, let's try it. And I said, all right, let's try it. And, you know, it went really fast. But in the end, listening to it, I felt like this is exactly the thing that needs to be out there. This is like, the lyrics is awesome. I can't accept that I have been proven wrong at this point. And we, should make it work like that.
How is Muchi?
So I have a friend.
Who is Muchi?
Mochi. Mochi is my cat. I've had her not even 2 years. So she's actually been with me ever since just a few months after I wore my hijab. She was my best friend. My best friend had a cat, or still has it. Alhamdulillah. And she had 3 babies, and this was the one that her mom sort of just pushed off and said, I don't want my baby anymore. So I took care of her, and I kept her, and we've became inseparable. I've missed her so much. When I think about stuff, the first thing I think, okay, I need to think about my cat. So I don't want to say she's my child. I like to think she's something very close to it. And I made sure, because I knew I was going to travel in the future, I always made sure, like, I always thought about, okay, this is what I want in life. I'm going to make it happen somehow, inshallah. And I made sure she's a travel cat. So she's like a travel cat that loves me very much.
Any final words to everyone watching?
I obviously wish for everyone to be happy, to find their peace, and, you know, never let yourself get dragged down by people, or even if people tell you it's not the right thing and you know it's the right thing, go for it, because you're always going to find people that agree with you, and you're always going to find a way, you know, like one door closes, the other one opens. Applies so well on this one. So keep pushing, be strong, and do your thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.